Young Life could be called a faith-based mentoring program for adolescents. But that sounds boring. And Young Life isn't boring. In 1941, Jim Rayburn knew that God wanted everyone to experience life to the full, even high schoolers. So he started Young Life. Since then, Young Life has branched into middle schools, colleges, and beyond in over 100 countries, all across the globe. For over 80 years, staff and volunteer leaders have been going to kids, getting to know and care for them, and inviting them into the greatest adventure of all. So, how does Young Life do this? It all starts with Young Life leaders. They go where adolescents are, whether track meets, coffee shops, or skate parks. Leaders care for kids on their turf, in their communities. They want every kid to have a friend and know that they're worthy of being cared for, whether they're interested in a relationship with God or not. Relationships are a foundation of Young Life. Leaders invite kids to Young Life Club, a celebration of relationships. It's a safe place to connect with others, where kids can be kids. A chance to laugh, have fun, and hear a life-changing story about God from one of their leaders. Fun is a foundation of Young Life. And if kids have questions about God and want to dig deeper, Young Life has campaigners, a small group of leaders and kids learning how to follow Jesus together by reading the Bible and talking about what a relationship with God looks like in everyday life. Faith is a foundation of Young Life. A few times a year, Young Life leaders invite their kids to Young Life Camp, a place designed just for them. At camp, kids can experience adventure, community, and consider who Jesus is, all while having one of the best weeks of their lives. Adventure is a foundation of Young Life. And Young Life isn't just for kids. Committee is a group of committed parents and adults partnering with local Young Life staff and volunteers, investing in their community. Community is a foundation of Young Life. So, if you're a kid, Young Life is a safe place for you to be known and hear about the God who knows and loves you. If you're a parent, it's a place for your kids to be cared for and encouraged. If you care about kids, you can even be a leader and help change someone's life. So, what is Young Life? It could be called a faith-based mentoring program for adolescents. And a whole lot more.
Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome. We are so glad that you are here at the 2024 Young Life Fundraiser. So yes, you will have an opportunity tonight to poke fun and enjoy the evening. Yes, we do get a wonderful meal. But you'll also have the chance to volunteer. You will have a chance to support the work of Young Life here in Central Oregon. And we will also hear from a very, very special guest speaker tonight. It is going to be quite the honor to hear from the son of the grandson, that is, of Jim Rayburn, who started Young Life many, many years ago. So we hope that you enjoy the evening thoroughly.
The big dream was a pretty little dream, but it got big because there was such a big idea behind it. Everyone has a right to know the truth about Jesus Christ. They're in every class and every color, in every ethnic group, in every segment of our society. Everyone needs Jesus Christ. They have a right to know who he is. They have a right to know what he's done for them. They have a right to know how they relate to that. They have a right to know him personally. They have a right to make their own choice of him. Man alive, if there was ever a generation in human history that needed to hear that, it's now. So the big dream, stated another way, is this. It's a group of people bound together in the single-minded purpose that there's no price too high to pay to see to it that young people have a chance to know the Savior. That's not just what Young Life's all about. That's all that Young Life's all about. I hope that you people will get up with new determination and go back to the big dream and make it come true in millions of lives.
Well, welcome once again. We are so glad that you are here tonight. The theme for tonight is a time to build. Normally when we think about that, it's a time to build a home or a shed or a greenhouse. That's not the kind of building that we're talking about. We're talking about building lives, building community, and building a church. And so we're just especially glad that you are here to enjoy this tonight. I want you to hear from our special guest speaker this evening. The voice that you've just heard is that of Jim Rayburn. He is the founder of Young Life, and our guest speaker tonight is the grandson of Jim Rayburn. His name is Mark Patterson. He is a pastor, and now he has left the pastorate, but he's training new pastors. Please welcome Mark Patterson.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Well, I am thrilled to be with you all. Everywhere I have lived and everywhere we have moved, we have supported Young Life. And so when we moved to Bend a little over a year ago, I called the area director, Justin, and said, how can we get involved? And we had a great walk at late last spring, and he said, would you consider doing the banquet? I said, I would love to do anything I could do in any place I live, in any place I go to help Young Life. I cannot say enough good words about Young Life, not only because of what I've seen it do, but because of what it's done to me, what it's done for me, who I am, is probably more the result of Young Life, the ministry of Young Life, than any other single ministry. I love that talk that my grandfather gave, and the vision of it is priceless, just the simplicity of it. He had a knack of taking the complex gospel and describing it in really simple terms, in ways that people could understand. And for him to talk about the big dream, where he stood and what maybe people don't understand or remember, or maybe you don't know, the fact that that talk was given at the last time that he was with the entire Young Life staff. He died of cancer just a couple months after that. And his last time to come before the Young Life staff and say, what are we about and what's the purpose of it? His last work, his last message to the Young Life staff was to try and recenter, or not recenter, but just remind them of the center that they'd been on, the journey that they'd been going, and the center of what it was all about. And that image is so good, where it says the big dream, it didn't begin as a big dream. It began as a small dream, but it grew into something big. The belief that every person has a right to hear the news about Jesus Christ. They have a right to know who he is, and they have a right to know what he has done for them. It doesn't matter their ethnicity, or their language, or their age, their education, or their financial background. Every person has a right to hear the good news of Jesus Christ. And that line that he says in there is just so priceless. He says, that's not just what Young Life is all about. That's all that Young Life is all about. I remember that talk, not because I was there, but because he was at our house the week before he gave it. And it was, I knew he was sick, but as a kid, I was about 11. He died when I was 11. That you know that he was sick, but you don't really know what that means. And I just remember my grandpa had come to visit. My grandpa and I, we were really close. I was the first grandchild in our family. And I don't remember the fact, but my mom told me that when I was very little, my grandpa used to put me on his knee and teach me Bible verses, and get me to memorize Bible verses, and he would reward me with sips of Coca-Cola, which now I still can't memorize the Bible without a Coke. But he would do this, and I guess my mom would say that he loved the face that I would make as I sipped the carbonated drink, and he just loved that and would giggle. I remember lots of times he came to us. I remember we going to him. Every other summer we would go to their house in Colorado Springs, and it was just fun to be with my grandfather. He would take us to Manitou Springs, if you've ever been there, the arcade at in Manitou Springs, and it was just fun hanging around him. I remember one time he had this incredible, cool watch. Lots of dials, and it glowed in the dark like the moon. And I just loved it, and he let me wear it around. And I remember he said, "You can have it." And I remember my mom thinking and talking to him, saying, "I don't think you should give him this really nice watch." And I remember my grandfather saying, "It's not good, it's cheap." But I thought it was the coolest thing I'd ever been given. And I wore that watch of my grandfather until it died about 3 weeks later. But it was priceless to me. It was longer than that, but it was priceless to me. And my grandfather and I, we hung out together a lot in those years. And when I was, at one point, it was one of his last trips to Trail West Lodge, this lodge that they've set up in the Colorado mountains. It was designed primarily to bring adults, so that they could come and stay in this hotel-like setting, beautiful setting, and then visit Silver Cliff or Frontier Ranch and watch what Young Life was doing, how it was working with kids, and the way the messages were being given. It was a beautiful place, and I loved that spot. And as we were heading in that direction, we'd been in the Southwest. My grandfather loved the Southwest. And we went to the little town a Mexican had in that sandstone weird thing that looks like a sombrero outside of town, and the goosenecks. We stood on the edge of the goosenecks with my grandfather looking off the cliff, which he loved doing. And we went to Monument Valley, and when we left Monument Valley, we were heading to Mesa Verde, and he invited me to ride in his car. He had this incredible, fast GTO convertible, and he loved to drive fast in it, way faster than my grandmother enjoyed. And I got to ride with my grandfather. As we were coming into Cortez, Colorado, I remember him asking me, he said, "Shall we get a strawberry soda?" And I said, "I've never had a strawberry soda." And I remember him turning around and saying, "You've never had a strawberry soda?" And we stopped at this little place and had one, and my first strawberry soda, and it was just priceless to be with him. We came into Trail West, and instantly people gathered all around him. And I didn't understand as a 11-ish year old kid why people were around him. I knew he had something to do with Young Life, but I didn't understand anything. But people just flocked around him. And I remember when we'd have dinners at Trail West Lodge, there was a great big long table that was there, and the family sat there, and sometimes some invited guests would sit at the table, the family table. And at the end of the table, my grandfather would always sit at the end, and I sat right at his right side. And we had dinner after dinner there, sitting next to my grandfather. They had a trout pond there. It was for kids only, and I went out and caught a fish. They told us that if you caught a fish, you could bring it into the cook at Trail West, and he would cook it for you. And I brought it in, and I said, "Would you cook this for my grandfather?" And they said, "Absolutely." And he said, "What's his name?" And I said, "Jim Rayburn." And they instantly you could feel the awe. And as a kid, you learned that it was really good to be able to flash his name. You could flash his name at the ice cream parlor and get ice cream. You could use his name a lot. And I didn't fully understand it. But that night, sitting at his right hand at the table, they served everybody around the family long table, and then they brought out this plate for him with this big trout on it. I remember it being like 8 pounds, but it was probably smaller. And my grandfather saying, "What's this?" And I said, "I caught it for you, Papa." And he goes, "Wow, this is the finest trout I've ever eaten." And he just kept saying that, put his hand on my shoulder and said, "This is the best trout I've ever had." And it meant so much. There's a lot of things he gave me, from Bible verses to Coke to watches. But intriguingly, the single most important thing my grandfather gave me was something he gave me very indirectly. And in a weird sense, but no less valuable, it was something that he had given me, but also given to literally tens of thousands of others. And it was the gospel. Now, I came into Young Life Club very differently than most kids. Most of the kids, like here in Bend, you have a Young Life Club and you go to camp. You heard it on an earlier video. You heard it said that you gather with your club and you all go to camp together. You go to Malibu or Woodleaf or the one here in Oregon, and you go together. But when I went to camp, we didn't have a Young Life Club, or that we knew of in our area. So my mom called Young Life headquarters, and she flashed the Rayburn name and said, "I'm Ann Rayburn, and I want my 2 boys to go to Young Life Camp, and we'll be dropping them off on such and such a..." And they said, "Yes, ma'am." And so we drove on family vacation and drove up to Frontier Ranch, and my mom basically kicked us out of the car, said, "Have a good week." And we were put in a cabin full of kids from Minnesota. And it wasn't with our Young Life Club. It was just one of my brothers and I, and a Young Life camp. And it was during that week I became a Christian. I can't tell you the day or the night or what talk it was. I don't even really remember precisely the talks. I remember somebody up there night after night telling us about Jesus. And for me, before that week, Jesus was just a guy in the Bible. There's Abraham and Moses and Noah and Ezekiel and Jeremiah and Peter and James and John and Jesus. And there's just guys in the Bible. And I didn't know that he was any more important than any of the others, or any more special than any of the others. But it was sometime during that week that I realized that Jesus was not just some guy in the Bible. He was the guy of the Bible. That everything centered around him. That all the people in the Bible before him were in some strange way pointing forward to him. And everybody in the Bible after him was in some clarifying way pointing back to him, of why he mattered and who he was. In a sense, they were describing, the Bible's really all about this, is the big dream of why Jesus matters. And that it is vitally important to know who he is and what he's done. And it was during that week that I became a Christian. One of those nights I gave my life to Jesus. Or really for me, it wasn't a big step. It was just, I found I believed in what this guy every night was saying about him. I left the camp believing Jesus was real. And not only that, that I could have a relationship with him. That I could actually have a relationship with the living God through Jesus. It was mind-boggling to me. I didn't know what it meant, and I didn't know what to do with it, but I went home, and my mom helped us find a local Young Life Club. It wasn't at our high school. It was at another high school, but I started going, and then I started bringing my friends from my high school, and it only took a couple months, and we took over. It became or at least 50-50, 2 high schools together in this one thing, and it was in that first year that I began to understand that it's not just about believing who Jesus is, it's about learning how to walk with him. My Young Life leader and I am forever grateful for this. When I came back from camp and I got a Young Life Club and met the leader, and he said, "Well, I'm so glad you became a Christian. That is such great news." He said, "Christians do 2 things. They read their Bible and they pray." And I said, "Okay, how do I do that?" And he said, "What time do you get up?" And I said, 7 in the morning for school. And he goes, "Get up, it's 20 till. Spend 10 minutes reading your Bible and 10 minutes praying." And I've done that actually longer than that. Now it grew into a rich life, but for over 50 years now. that I am so grateful, and it has shaped my life in ways I can't even describe. Those simple little words from a young life leader says, Christians read their Bible and they pray. The thing that my grandfather gave me, there are so many things, from Bible verses to watches to fun times to a strawberry soda. But what he really gave me was Jesus. What he really did was taught me about why Jesus matters. The big dream manifested indirectly. It wasn't him necessarily that told me or changed me, but it was Young Life. And it completely changed me. My whole life has been shaped around the person of Jesus. And I wouldn't trade a thing. If I could go back to that camp, if I could go back to whoever it was the speaker at that camp, I would say, thank you. Thank you for describing Jesus in such clear and fun and vibrant ways. Thank you for a camp that was so alive and full of laughter and fun and made it inviting. And thank you for all that you said. But the one thing I want you to know is, in telling me about Jesus, I would just want you to know he's even better than you described. He's kinder than you described, and better and deeper and more wondrous. My life has been transformed by him, and I would just say thank you to that person. And my desire to do something for Young Life in any place we go is growing out of that just gratitude for Young Life, for what it's done to shape me, the good that it's brought into my life. It's been absolutely, indescribably life-changing and good. Now, you might ask, you're here, and you might say, well, why Young Life? Why should I be involved with it? Why should I partner with it? Why should I support it? Those are all really good questions. And I can say that there's a number of reasons. And it has to do with that big dream, and it has to do with the power of Jesus at work in our world today. The Apostle Paul, in the beginning of Romans, in his introduction to this big, deep letter to Rome, full of deep and profound theology, he has these simple little words at the beginning. He says, I am not ashamed of the gospel, for it is the power of God for salvation to everyone who believes. Why would God say that? Why would Paul say that? I'm not ashamed of the gospel. Why would he say such a thing? Well, it might be if the gospel was not true, if it was a lie, if Jesus hadn't risen from the dead, if Jesus wasn't himself God, hadn't come to love us, if all of that was fake, false, a lie, then that would be grounds for being embarrassed. But Paul's saying, I'm not ashamed of the gospel. It's true. Everything it says about who Jesus is and how he changes lives is true. He might be ashamed if it was because it didn't accomplish what it had promised, that it can change lives, that it has the power to bring forgiveness from God into lives and transform them, that the power of the gospel has actually the ability, the power with God coming into our lives of breaking the power of addictions, of restoring relationships, of changing lives. If it didn't do these things, if it was not capable of doing these things, then Paul might be ashamed. When Paul says, I'm not ashamed of the gospel. Or if it was only for a certain group of people, a certain ethnicity, or certain age, a certain education level. There's only one group that's allowed to have it, or know it, or enjoy it. Then that would be grounds for being embarrassed or ashamed. But Paul says, I'm not ashamed of the gospel. I'm not ashamed of the gospel because it's the power of God for salvation. In the simple message, when a Young Life leader tells of the story of Jesus, when a person in front of a camp, in my camp in Frontier in 1975, stood up and talked to me about Jesus, an amazing thing happens. That God himself comes and that Jesus actually manifests and says, everything that guy is saying about me, I am that to you. And what happened in Young Life to me was that the reality of Jesus became present and began a relationship. I'm not ashamed of the gospel because it's the power of God to bring transformation to people's lives. And I have seen that happen in Young Life over and over and over. In our area, I was pastoring a church in the Seattle area. And the Young Life leader was a great guy, good friend, priceless friend. And I was doing youth ministry in the church, and he was doing Young Life, but we partnered a lot. I found that there were kids that I could not reach, that they would not come to our church. They had zero interest in church, and I could call Reggie and say, Reggie, can I give you a kid's number? He's a great kid, and he's going through some hard times, and Reggie was on it. And Reggie did it the other way around, too. At one time, he invited me to take a group of boys, about 10 boys, that he had mentored and shepherded for 6 years, to take them to Young Life's Malibu camp. It's just a stunning, amazing camp in British Columbia. Reggie had met with this group of guys, this group of boys, every Friday for breakfast since they were 7th graders. And now every one of them were a senior in high school, or going into their senior year, actually. It was the summer before their senior year. And I asked, why aren't you taking them? And he said, I've got something I have to go to, and I'm not able to get the time off, and would you take my boys? And I said, absolutely. So I went with these guys, and we had a great time. And because of Reggie, by the time that they'd gotten to be just before their senior year, every one of them had become a Christian, except one, a young man named Rudy. And Rudy was just a priceless kid. He was really quiet. He was just a sweet guy, a wrestler, kind of big, but very quiet and just a sweet kid. And at that camp, as we sat around and we do what you do at Young Life camps, and I asked each of them, I said, where are you at with Jesus? Who is he to you? Do you see yourself as a follower of Jesus on one of the last nights? And it went around the room, and every one of those boys said, yes, I'm a follower of Jesus. I believe in him. But Rudy said, no, I'm not ready yet. And I said, that's great. You keep exploring, Rudy. And Rudy did. It was about 8 months later, around April or May of that year, of his senior year, I was at church. Worship had just ended, and Rudy came up to me. And I said, Rudy, what are you doing? It's good to see you. And he goes, I'm ready. And I said, ready for what? And he goes, to give my life to Jesus. I said, did you tell Reggie? And he goes, yep, Reggie told me to come tell you. I said, okay. And so we knelt up in the front of the church. And there in the front of this little church in the Seattle area, Rudy gave his life to Jesus and began a journey. Reggie came to our church, and he was there at the next service. And I grabbed him and I said, Reggie, you got to hear what Rudy, he came forward, he gave his life to the Lord. And he goes, oh, I was hoping he would. I said, he told me you sent him. And he said, I did. And I said, why didn't you just lead him to Jesus? And he goes, he's been in Young Life for these years, and he has only a couple more months. And if he could remember that it's at the church where he gave his life to Jesus, he'll have the church with him for the rest of his life. And I want him to remember that it's at the church is where he gave himself to the Lord Jesus. And you were there as a pastor for him. And I said, we can partner together forever with that kind of attitude of me being able to just hand kids to him. He hands them back to me. And that's what Young Life does, because it's all about the big dream. It's all about saying every person has a right to know about Jesus Christ. They have a right to know who he is. And they have a right to know what he's done for them. And we want them to know this because it's incredibly transformative. It literally changes lives in levels that are indescribable. There's one time, and I'll close with this, there's one time at that Trail West dining table with our family around this big table, my grandfather seated at the head of the table and me right at his right-hand side, and a young work crew girl, about 16, give or take a little bit, came and knelt down between me and my grandpa and faced him. And he looked at her, and she said to him, Mr. Rayburn, they told me that you're dying of cancer. Is that true? And he said in that voice you heard on the thing, he said, yes, honey, it's true. And she said, and you're going to heaven soon, right? And he goes, yes, honey. And she said, may I ask a favor? And he said, absolutely. And she said, my mom died of cancer 3 years ago. And we used to fight a lot. And she died, and I never got to tell her I love her and that I'm sorry. And she wanted me to become a Christian. She was a Christian and prayed for me, and I didn't want to, and I wouldn't go to church. But I become a Christian through Young Life, and I'm going to go to heaven. And would you, when you get to heaven, would you find my mom and tell her I'm okay, and that I'm a Christian, and that I love her, and I'm sorry? And my grandfather put his hand on her shoulder and said, honey, she'll be the first person I look up. You know, as a kid, I looked at that and thought, I don't fully understand what happened, but I remember it so vividly that something important transpired there. And this is the power of Jesus. You know, he can even reconcile families across the grave. There's no problem that's too big in this world for Jesus to not be able to fix. There's no addiction that he can't address and solve. There's no forgiveness of sin or brokenness or hurt or wound that he can't redeem and fix. He's indescribably good. And that's what Young Life's all about, is telling high school students the big dream, that you have a right to know the incredible person of Jesus Christ. You have a right to know who he is, how he feels about you, and what he's done for you. And there's nothing more important in all the world than knowing that simple thing. And that's not just what Young Life is about, it's all it's about. Thanks a lot for having me.
Hey, thank you all so much for being here tonight. I know there are so many other places you could be and other things vying for your attention, and we are grateful that you took the time to be here to celebrate and to hear about the awesome work that is happening with Bend Young Life. As Bob said, I'm Ari Lawton. I'm the wildlife director, so I head up all of our middle school ministries and also get to work alongside our other staff in leading Young Life and making sure it can happen here in the area.
That's right, and my name is Skylar Laughlin. I'm part of staff as well with Ari, and I lead high school ministry at Mountain View High School. Go Cougars! Some Cougars in the building. Some of these servers that you had. Oh, okay, we got some storm in the building as well. That's all right. That's good. That's good. We need that. And we also have a wonderful admin. If you had a good dinner tonight, if you are enjoying the table of people that you were sitting around, if you were able to park in the parking lot, it's all happening because of our admin, Nancy Hackbarth. Ladies and gentlemen, can we please give it up for our admin, Nancy Hackbarth? As you know, all the great things in life get done by administrative people, and she is one of the best. We cannot do any of this ministry without her. We're really grateful for her, and so she is also part of the staff, Ari, myself, and Nancy Hackbarth.
We have another staff position. Our area director, Justin Scott, has stepped off staff. We really miss him. He did an amazing job leading the area, and we are so grateful for all the work he has done. So over the next couple months, we're going to be starting the process of searching for and hiring a new area director, and we would love your prayers as we enter into that season. In the meantime, we have our staff, awesome committee members, and volunteer leaders who are showing up and doing the work and making ministry in Bend happen.
That's right. This ministry, Young Life, is staff-led, but it is leader and committee-driven. Really, the heart and soul of what Young Life is all about is the volunteer leaders in every area that it exists. It is the volunteers that build relationships with kids. It's the volunteers who build community at their schools. It's the volunteers who build hope, who build confidence, who build... I'm not sure what you're talking about, man. This is our fundraiser for Young Life tonight.
So I got my tool belt, my hammer, tape measure, ready to rock, man.
Yeah.
Oh, whoa, sorry. It's not that kind of building. In Young Life, we build relationships and we build community, we build faith and hope. that kind of building.
Hey, all right, so he's starting to get it. So here's how it works. Young Life starts with some caring adults who love Jesus and love kids and want kids to know who Jesus is. From there, those adults who care about kids start praying for and paying for Young Life in a city. And then from there, we build into volunteer leaders who build relationships with kids.
Here, we'll go ahead and show you. We're going to take a couple minutes now to hear from some of the volunteers and students in the area who are building up Young Life. We're going to hear from a couple committee members and a couple of our volunteer leaders, as well as a couple of students who have been involved.
Hey, good evening. My name is Chris Goffrier. I am on committee here. And Skylar and Ari just asked me to share just a little bit about my history with Young Life and how that kind of interacts with my faith. So just a quick bit about me. Lived in Bend for 18 years. My wife and I, Jenny, I got 2 daughters at Summit and a son at Cascade. And history with Young Life, I was a Young Life kid. I went to Malibu at 16 and have tried everything in my power to get back there as much as possible. I went to Oregon State. I did college Young Life. I did work week, work crew, and became a volunteer leader. And my underlying takeaway from Young Life is just it's always been relational. One of the closest people in my life and best friend still is my high school Young Life leader. Met my wife volunteering as a Young Life leader. On Friday, the Young Life leader that volunteered to take my brother to Malibu in 1996, I sent him an email on Friday and said, "Hey, do you want to come to the Young Life banquet?" And he's sitting next to me tonight. I led with Sarah Bittner in college. Emma, you have no idea who I am, but I led with your mom in college. And it has always been relational to me, and it is always about community. And I think with my faith, it has always been strongest when it has been in community. And Young Life has always been a big part of that. And so I love Young Life, and I love it here in Bend, and I will do everything I can to try and help it. And so yeah, that's my story.
Thanks, Chris. And hi, I'm Sarah Bittner, and I have been involved in Young Life since I was kind of probably like Chris too, high school age, headed off to Malibu, and then in college, so fun leading together. And now I'm on committee, which is a group of adults who kind of meet and support and get to be kind of the fun behind the scenes, just kind of helping out and knowing what's going on and encouraging. I would say, okay, so I've got 2 kiddos in college and 1 kiddo in high school still, who have all had some part of Young Life in their life. But the thing that really has impacted me, full circle kind of just having been a kiddo in Young Life and then now having kids involved in Young Life, is just kind of echoing what Chris said about relationship and just community and authentic, just people just rooting for you and in your corner and coming alongside you. And just tonight, watching like the videos that we're showing kind of as we were eating and just witnessing, I kind of took a minute just to look around and watch you all as we were eating and just seeing like the energy, the vibrancy, the love, that like how excited you guys are to see your friends and to see the people at your table and just to do memories and recall, certain things and life events that you've gone through together, and just how much I know as a parent, like I want that for my own kiddos. And I truly, truly can't imagine, like, or I should say, I'm just so thankful that their kids are their parents and adults and leaders and people in my kiddos' lives that have come up and supported them and loved them and done things for them that as a parent that I know that I can't do or reach them in certain ways. We have like the best Young Life staff and leaders here, guys, and truly when you know somebody's heart, like I feel like I just would do anything because, or like want to be involved or want to help out just because they are such amazing, giving, loving people, and they just lead you and show and point us all, I think, to God and to Christ, and showing kids what a relationship looks like and what like a true, authentic, deep relationship looks like, not just a surfacey screen, Snapchat picture looks like, but actually getting deep and involved with our kids and with our youth and with each other, and just showing and modeling what that looks like in a healthy, great way. So just thankful. I've loved seeing all of your smiling faces. It's been so great just seeing, like we said, the energy, the community, the relationships, which is what Young Life is all about, which is these awesome relationships and pointing relationships about the relationship that we want our kids to have with God. Where's my box?
I am blessed to be a lot of things in this life. I'm a husband, I'm a father, I'm a police officer. Sorry if I've written you a ticket. For the low donation of $1,000, I can take care of that for you. Just kidding. The city wants their money and they're gonna get it. One of my favorite things I get to be, though, is a Young Life leader. I get to lead at Summit High School. And when I was asked to come up here and talk tonight about what Young Life means to me and what it's done in my life, I wanted to share with you guys the first time I ever heard about Young Life or got involved in Young Life. I was a middle schooler at Hidden Valley Middle School in Escondido, California, where I'm from. And this was in like 2001. So I get to be like the old guy Young Life leader, which is really fun for me. I know it doesn't seem old for you guys, but when you hang out with high schoolers all day, you feel pretty old at 35. So the only thing I knew about Young Life was all the cool kids were invited, and I was definitely not invited. All the cool kids looked at me and were like, everyone can come except you. And I was like, cool, I'll stay over here. And it wasn't until the following year, about this time of year actually, that I was invited to Young Life. I wasn't invited by any of the other students or any of my classmates. I got to be invited by my older brother, who was my Young Life leader. He was a leader for all the other kids with his best friends, right? And man, to be invited to something by somebody you admire and love and respect meant so much to me. So I got to start going to Young Life. And I got to start hearing, and more importantly, seeing from my leaders that there is a God who loves me simply because I am me, who sent his son to die for me, and who conquered death for me, and who is inviting me to a life of adventure with him. So I went to camp that summer at a camp called Oak Bridge in Ramona, California, that doesn't exist anymore. That's how old I get to be now. Places I love don't exist anymore. And I'll never, ever forget the night that I got to give my life to Jesus. I was wrapped in the embrace of my older brother, and I was under the stars, weeping with the perfect and peaceful joy that comes in knowing Christ. And my life has never been the same. And I went on from there to lead middle school kids just like my brother did when I was in high school, all through high school with my very best friends. I went off to college at Azusa Pacific, where I led high school kids in San Marino as a college kid. I graduated college, and I went on staff with Young Life, and I got to lead kids all over Escondido. I've had the privilege of leading kids in some of the most wealthy areas that you could imagine and some of the poorest areas that you can imagine, and I've seen that they're all missing the same thing, and they all need the same thing. And that's why I do Young Life. I remember exactly what it was like to be a lonely kid. Feels like he doesn't belong, who hates himself, and who's desperately waiting to be invited to a meaningful life. I've gotten to feel the redemptive love of Jesus that changed my life, and I know all of you who have felt the same thing can't help but sharing it with others and wanting to feel the same. And that's why I do Young Life. I want every kid everywhere to know that they are loved by God and He is inviting them to a life full of adventure. And I'll leave you guys with what I told all of my kids this summer and what I try to remind them every time I see them. God loved you yesterday, He loves you today, and He will love you tomorrow. And there is nothing you can do to stop that. Thank you.
Hello. My name is Emily Cardinal. Thanks, Tommy, for sharing. Really strong there. My name is Emily Cardinal. I'm a volunteer Young Life leader at Mountain View High School. And I have been a leader now for almost 3 years. In those 3 years, I have had the opportunity to go to countless football games and volleyball games and basketball games and softball games and soccer games and all of these sporting events, also showing up for kids outside of school as well. I think that in these last 3 years, I have been able to experience some unexplainable joy with teenagers. I have been challenged to put myself outside of my comfort zone a lot. But ultimately, I have had the privilege of walking alongside teenagers who want a friend, who want an adult to know their name. And I'm so thankful that I get to be a part of Young Life. Thank you if you are a parent in this room who I get to walk alongside your daughter, because they are truly impacting my life just as much as I get to impact theirs.
Hi, I'm Emma Kelly. I'm a junior at Mountain View, and I've been coming to Young Life clubs and camps since my freshman year. This year I've had the chance to be a part of Young Life student leadership, which has drawn me so much closer to both other student leaders and also my amazing adult leaders. Young Life has given me amazing opportunities to connect with others and strengthen my faith. It's a place where I can go to have fun with my friends, learn about the gospel, and help teach others about God. I always look forward to going to my weekly campaigners groups with my other Mountain View girls. Our Tuesday morning Bible studies definitely help us get to know both God and each other better. Young Life Camp has truly changed my faith for the better, and I'll never forget the things I learned there. I'll always be grateful for the experiences, relationships, and memories I created while at Washington Family Ranch. I feel so blessed to be a part of this organization, and I'm so excited to continue pursuing my involvement in Young Life.
Hello, my name's Ella Swarzenberger, and I'm an 8th grader middle schooler at High Desert. And Young Life has really impacted my walk with God. It's provided me with people and mentors that help me stay consistent. And that's just something I value so much, because being a middle schooler and tempted with all the temptations of a public school, it's really hard to be one of the only kids really trying to stay consistent with your walk with God. But Young Life has really helped me feel not alone in that and given me a community to support me and help me support them and build each other up. I've had a lot of ups and downs in my walk, and Young Life has just provided me with a consistency of people who are there for me, people I can talk to, people I can pray with, and just people who will see me for who I am and help me understand what God wants for me in those situations. Young Life has also shown me how to regain my confidence in the Lord. That's been a big part of my walk with God, is just regaining who I am and my happiness and my joy, and Young Life has been a big resource to help me gain that back. Lindsay Welch, my leader, she's just awesome, and she just has really helped me through that. It's just been a huge part of my walk with God. I've got to see growth personally through my life and through my peers' lives, both adults and students, personally through Young Life, and that is just something so powerful that I've seen testimonies form, not only my own, but my friends, these people that I get to call my best friends through Young Life. It's just so awesome being involved in Young Life. It's probably my favorite part of what I do. It's given me friends. I can walk down the hallway at school now. I've been doing Young Life for the last 3 years, and before that, I definitely felt pretty alone. But now I can walk down the hallway and I could see my friend and just know no matter what the circumstances, that she will always pray for me, and I have a whole group of friends that'll do that for me. And that's just something that's so priceless to me. So what Young Life has really done for me has just provided for me and equipped me with the things I need to keep consistency in my faith.
Awesome. Wow, it's loud. Yeah, that's, I think, what makes Young Life so awesome. We have some staff, but really it's parents, it's community members, it's volunteers who are going where kids are, who are praying for them, who are showing them who Jesus is. It's one big process of everything building on top of one another. Like we said, we have some staff, and then we have adults and committee members who are praying. They're investing in the lives of our leaders, who then get to invest in the lives of kids. And then those students have the opportunity to have their own faith grow and develop, and then they can also share that with their friends and with their peers and transform lives that way. So let's give a round of applause again for all of our sharers. We got to hear from a couple of our volunteer leaders, but we definitely have more. If you are a volunteer leader, would you please stand up? Awesome. They weren't all able to make it tonight. So the volunteer leaders are the adults who are donating their time. They're investing in the lives of students. They're going to their games. They're showing up at concerts. They're showing up at the skate parks. They're the ones going there and just being the feet of Jesus. In addition to those awesome volunteers, we have student leaders. A lot of them are here tonight wearing construction vests. If you're a student leader and want to stand up, some of you might be around the edge. It might be hard to see. But we have student leaders. Those are high school students who are leading their friends at the high school level or helping at the wildlife level. We also have other high schoolers and middle school students that came just to help tonight and to lend a hand, so we are really thankful for them. We also have a lot of families and churches and businesses that just let us invade their spaces. We need places where we can have a club, where we can have campaigners, where we can do leader meetings, and a lot of people here open their homes. Businesses do. I mean, we invade Thump Coffee for Summit Club all the time. I think the Roberts are hosting club right now. Like, people just open their homes, and we're really thankful for everyone and the ways they provide to make those spaces. And in addition to them, we also have some businesses that help sponsor this evening. There's an insert in your program that shows our business sponsors. We're really thankful to them for helping kick off our fundraising tonight, because this is, if you didn't know, a fundraiser. It's a chance to hear about Young Life and all the amazing work that God is doing, but it is also a fundraiser, and we would love some help. Have one.
Well, it is indeed a fundraiser. I got it. Good. It is indeed. If you didn't know that and somebody invited you here without telling you that, you could do a couple things. Probably most instinctive would just be to kick them under the table right now. But the other thing you could do is just take the envelope, we're going to talk about this, and write their name on it. And put in an amount that you believe they should give to Young Life. That would be appropriate for them to give, would be one way around it. You know, the big dream that every person has a right to hear the good news about Jesus Christ. One of the other things about Young Life that's fun is the big dream came along with a big method, different method, a big method that's relational. You heard about that and how important it is to build relationships, because it's not just telling somebody about Jesus. It's about someone who loves a kid and loves them enough to spend time with them and hang out with them, to build a relationship with them, that they're the ones that are sharing the faith. Young Life is not just about sharing the good news of Jesus, but about doing it relationally. And that takes a lot of time and it takes a lot of energy. And that's what the names of the people that you saw in there, they're printed in your book, a whole bunch of volunteer leaders. It is a priceless team who are giving many, many hours. And that's part of the big dream. One of the things, I don't know if you caught it in that speech that my grandfather gave, that 2-minute little segment, he said, the big dream, put another way, is the story of a group of people bound together in the single-minded purpose that there is no price too high to pay to bring the good news of Jesus to kids. There's no price too high. And with that in mind, what we get to do in this room, each and every one of us, is to be a part of the big dream, to be a part of sharing the good news of Jesus. You may not be, at least this year, listed on the inside of this card, of people who are actually working with high school kids and junior high kids and meeting with them and sharing the gospel with them. But it takes the work that they're doing, takes a support of what we can do together. And that's why I want to invite you to consider giving to Young Life. We've given to Young Life in Ventura, California, where we lived for 25 years. And we're shifting our giving up here to Bend, because we've always given to the area in which we live. And this is home. And so Linda and I are going to be giving and filling out our card as well. And I want to invite you to do that as well. There's a lot of different ways you can do it. You can obviously check a box on there. It's 200 or 150, there's 100. You can put it in there, write in another amount. I want to challenge you to try something a little different and think about if there's an amount that you might have written in there, to take that amount and cut it in half, and then make that a monthly payment. Anything that you give Young Life is helpful. And the Young Life team is incredibly blessed by that, very grateful beyond words that you would help support, big or small, in whatever way you can. The Young Life team, the Young Life area, the committee is deeply grateful, beyond my ability to describe, for any gift that you would give. What helps them the most, especially in this time when they're building something new and trying to expand into new areas and to hire a new area director, is what helps profoundly is have a monthly gift that comes in. Not only does that help them budget and plan, but it also allows you to be more united in the day-to-day, month-to-month operations of what Young Life is doing, because it's an ongoing thing, and it allows you to be intimately and regularly involved in the wonderful work of Young Life. So you can look on here. I think there's a whole bunch of boxes you could check. You could do a gift. You can do it different ways, ACH and credit card. And I think there's, yes, a QR code in here in your pamphlet that you can use that if you prefer that method. There's a lot of different ways to do it. But I want to encourage you to take your envelope, and if you would, at this time, just prayerfully take a look at that. If you're here with a spouse, consider what you might give. And one of the things that we always love, a number at the front and as many zeros and commas after it. We love those in Young Life, so you can put as many of those as you wish after the fact. And thank you so much for considering your support of Young Life and being part of the big dream.